Hey, welcome to VET S.O.S, which is presenting Operation Startup. And remember, our motto here is don't drown into your transition, grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. The Operation Startup is proud to be affiliated with the Neil Haley Show and sponsored by Spirit Point Solution. So you ask yourself, what is Spirit Point Solution? It's a one-stop shop for leading edge products, services, and training from multiple vendors. That's from AI training to corporate gifts and so many things more in between. They have everything you need to help your organization thrive in a modern economy. Check out all the offerings at spiritpointonline.com. I'll say that again, spiritpointonline.com. And please remember to use our code VET S.O.S for anything you purchase there. That will help us continue our mission of improving the lives of those who have served. So on today's show, we have Miss Natalie Schibell, MPH. She's a national leader in veteran advocacy and military career transition strategy. She currently leads Missions to Commissions Incorporated and Commission to Transition LLC, guiding service members, veterans, spouses, and families through career transitions, leadership development, and long-term advancement. Her work centers on building durable systems that support service-connected communities across every chapter of military life. A former U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander, she brings lived leadership experience to the work of equipping veterans to thrive beyond the uniform. Man, impressive. How you doing today, Natalie?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Maurice. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show today. So I want to just hop right into our interview. So like yourself, you Navy officer, like myself, kind of walk us through that transition, for you when you transitioned out. What were those three major things you learned to help you get, I guess we'll say, adapted to civilian life as we call it?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I would say there's more like 300 things that I learned. Uh, the biggest one was I didn't focus on myself. So when you are transitioning out of the military, we all are very faithful and loyal to our job, our commission, our people, our sailors, but you have to put your transition in a top priority slot. I was so focused on my job at the time. I thought, "Oh, I've got time. It'll be all right. I'm going to be fine. I did really well in my military career. Someone's going to hire me." Not necessarily true.
Mhm.
So 6 months out is too late. I would say even a year out is too late. You've got to, depending on where you are in your career, make sure that you're focusing on identifying the different companies out there, the different roles that you would be competitive for. Absolutely start networking, working on your resume. These are all top priorities. Um, the second one I would probably do is you've got to take care of yourself. A lot of us have injuries coming out of the military. Do not put that off. I again put that off and was doing my disability claim way into my, first job out of the military. And, it
Wow.
takes time. You got to go to the doctors, you got to get all the diagnostics. So do not neglect that. If you're hurt, if you're in pain, please go to the doctor. Don't be brave. Don't say, I'll do it later. I'll be all right. Because what can happen is, and this happened to me, you get out, all of a sudden you're moving around one day and boom, something hits. And now you're going and going to the physician for the first time for certain things. And it becomes a much harder, longer process. Third is think about the reserve. I know a lot of us want to throw in the towel when we're ready to go. We're ready to go. But this is a tough economy. Uh, I would say it's a volatile job market. There's lots of opportunities, but there's also a lot of turbulence. Being in the reserve can help you not only, of course, continue to give back to your country, continue career growth, keep pace on technology and what's going on out there, but have some security, right? Some benefits. Your medical benefits are a huge one. Get some extra pay. It also allows you the opportunity to put yourself on active duty orders if you need to. I've done it twice, and it's been quite a lifeline for me. And it still gives you a purpose. It gives you some momentum that will only help your civilian career. So don't rule that out. Those are the three things in a nutshell.
Absolutely. I completely and totally agree with you. I think as leaders, we're always mission focused, people driven, and we're still trying to do those things that we did in the military without. you know what I'm saying, take consideration for ourselves when we transitioning out. So how long were you in for?
12 years total.
12 years. Gotcha. You don't want to finish the last 8 and get that retirement?
I actually did more on active duty as a reservist than I did on active duty component. So I have an
Really?
interesting career. I was in, then discharged, then back in, then discharged, then back in again. And part of the reason for that was I had a very difficult transition out. I was an environmental health officer. There really wasn't an apples to apples translation in the civilian sector. I found myself pivoting and repivoting and learning a lot along the way. So for me, it was quite a circuitous path. It wasn't just a straight line. So I'm not the traditional story, but
Yeah.
did do as I went back in the reserve, went on different active duty for special work orders, or some people call them ADOS orders, and was able to learn and grow in
Mhm.
a recruiting capacity. Started off as a recruiter, became Recruiter of the Year in New York, then went on to lead a region of recruiting at Navy Recruiting Command, learned an incredible amount of amazing things about talent acquisition and, of course, marketing. And fast forward a few years, here I am as a market strategist, a specialist in product and marketing. So it definitely one thing led to another, and it certainly upped my skills, and I'm grateful for those opportunities.
Got you. Got you. Now you said something about pivoting again, pivot again. Um, I think for us, you were in 12 years. We have to go through that process. Would you consider that a normal process to pivot a few times before you finally land on what you looking for those listeners who are out there?
Yeah, I think it depends on what industry you're in. Even in tech, these are expansive industries today. You find that there are so many nuances. I mean, even in marketing, there's so many different specialties within marketing and demand gen and product and content, event coordination, PR, communications. There's so many swim lanes that you can get into. And in the military, we're not exposed to a lot of them, if any of them at all. If you're in IT, same thing. There's tons of different disciplines that you can get into. And, you might be an engineer and you might think that's apples to apples, but when you're out in the civilian sector, you're dealing with different platforms, different workflows, different regulations, different hierarchies, and
Mhm.
different funding. And that's going to affect your day to day job. So, you might find that while you enjoyed it in the military, you go out into the civilian sector and you don't like it anymore. And, you have exposure to something else and you want to dive into that. That's a career pivot.
Yep.
Now you're leveraging some skills, but you've got to gain a lot of other skills that you're on par with the individuals you're working with and competing with for roles, especially as you climb up the corporate ladder and get to that, executive level or C suite. You've got some work to do.
Got you. So now talk to me about that transition from, you know, take me back to that moment where you decided to transition from being in corporate America to where you wanted to go into being an entrepreneur. What was kind of going on with you at the time? What kind of said, well, I don't think I want to do this corporate America thing. Let me switch to being an entrepreneur, which is a big, in my sense, a big step of faith when you do that. So kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, I would say I wanted autonomy.
Mm,
Uh, I found that my military skills made me a highly capable person who was very resourceful, very committed, and a lot of us struggle when we transition out and we get into these different work environments where we just want to go 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 and fix fix fix,
yep.
and the pace of things. I'm not saying one is better than the other. We need both in this world.
Yes.
The different methodologies in the military are very applicable to the civilian sector, and vice versa. But they all have their nuances and reasons for being the way they are. We're of course defending a country in the military. There's things to protect. We're more spending money versus making money, and then the corporate sector totally switches. Right, you got to make money, you got to generate revenue, pipeline gen.
Yes.
Those are foreign things in the military. It's like, how are we going to use these funds? So, there's different pace of things and different workflows and different expectations and ways of getting things done. In the military, we're trained to get the job done no matter what, use whatever resources, do it in a cost effective way. The corporate world, functions a little bit differently.
Hmm.
They're more of a consensus type of a community where, all right, let's get aligned. We'll then align with this person. We'll align with this other person. Meanwhile, in the military, you're already 3/4 of the way done with the job. You're like, let's go. We're ready. Got it.
Yep.
So you have to adjust to that. And the corporate world's not for everyone. And I find that your top military performers, top 5%, we're kind of wired that way where we just want to just get it done and get it done right and efficiently.
Hmm.
And that doesn't always align in the corporate sector. So I was getting the itch, and I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted to build a team of my own. I wanted to have control over things like tech stack and the pace of things. I didn't want a ceiling. And while that sounds, incredibly exciting, there's also, a lot of hard work that goes with it. Certainly not something that is foreign to me, but I talk to a lot of people transitioning out of the military, and like 90% of them want to start their own business, which is admirable and it's wonderful. But I always tell them, please don't do that. Go out into the corporate world, in the private sector, go get your certifications, your education, go learn in a startup, where you're doing everything from scratch, get a sense of marketing, of sales, of product, of, um, you know, research, whatever you need
Hmm.
to do, market research. Understand all of that first before you start plunging into starting a nonprofit or starting a for-profit. You'll find that it's a lot harder than you think. Certainly very rewarding, but
Hmm.
it's also a huge sacrifice. So um, that's mostly what I tell individuals.
Gotcha. So now, other than having full autonomy as an entrepreneur, what's been the most rewarding part for you thus far?
Yeah, I would say seeing success, seeing those little wins,
Mm.
uh, is super exciting. And you're going to scale a lot slower. And for transparency purposes, for everyone out there, I have a day job. I am a consultant, so that helps. You got to have something that funds your operations, right? Some of us get loans. I went the other route. I still work. I got a day job. I have a night job. I got a side job, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Um, unless, you go to the bank and you get a big chunky loan, I caution against that because, that's years and years of paying that loan back with interest. If you can do it, if you can head out into the corporate world and set some money aside and, continue to work in a job that, pays the bills, and you might like it. You might not, but you have that safety net. Also, everybody keep get your medical insurance.
Hmm.
Or be a reservist. That's one way that, I served with a lot of people who were building up different things, serving in the reserve, and it was their, a good safety net. Again, a good way to develop their skills and stay connected to a community, um, and build that on the side. And then one day, when you get to that point, then you can take a leap. And then you might feel it's okay that I could take out a loan because there's a very good chance that you're going to be able to pay it back in a nice, timely manner and not get into trouble. Um, there's a saying in horse racing, you know, bet, don't ever bet your eating money. And it always stuck with me. And it's the same. Don't gamble. Don't gamble that safety net away. Do it responsibly, especially if you have a family, children going to school. Uh, we've got to put that first,
Hmm.
and work up to those goals.
Got you. Got you. You're what I would call a hustler. You're going to make it happen one way or the other.
That's
It's got to
right.
happen. Absolutely. So now we know you have a little safety net. But as far as your business and your entrepreneurship side, what's been the most frustrating part for you along this journey since you started it?
I'd have to say personnel. It
Mm.
has and again, I had some great people in the military around, hard workers. And there's always this debate, right? When you go talk to people in the civilian sector in the corporate world, well, they have to listen to you because they have to obey orders. I run into this all the time, and it makes
Yes.
me cringe a little bit because we all know it's not quite how it works. You've got to be an intrusive leader in a way that you care about your people. You're rolling your sleeves up, earn their respect, and it goes both ways, right? Um, and I had a lot of great people that I served with. And when you head out into the civilian sector and when you're hiring for a company, you know, people aren't pre-screened first, right? You've got to do the job of screening them, of making sure you're interviewing properly, to make sure that you have a solid performer. And that is, of course, not a foolproof
Hmm.
methodology. If somebody has one, fill me in. But very competent, reliable workers are few and far in between. And that's been my
Sure.
big challenge is finding the right person. Because when you don't have the right person, it's the same thing out in the corporate sector. It's churn, turnover, wasted work, wasted money. That's been my biggest challenge, actually. It's not even been, what's the overarching plan? How do we pace it out? And those things, shift. But if you don't have people who are committed on timelines, on schedule, with that solid work ethic, especially if you're working other jobs and such, um, you're going to slow down a little bit, and you're going to have some waste, and that always happens in startups. You purchase the wrong platform. You just picked the wrong one. You got to eat that, right?
Yep.
And now you're on a contract. So these are the little mistakes that you make that you learn from, whether it's the wrong technology, the adjustment in a business plan, the wrong person that you hired. You just got to dust yourself off again, have that safety net, because these things cost money, they cost time and effort. You got to learn from your mistakes and keep moving on.
Absolutely. I think I've learned just from being in the business, being an entrepreneur. I think the saying is what slow to hire, quick to fire.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I
it
don't
just
like
happened. It
firing
just
people. That's not my thing. I like to give people a chance and give them time to turn it around. Um,
absolutely.
and the
But
and the biggest challenge is, I'm in a phase where I don't have, number of employees. I have contractors. And,
mm,
it's to be a contractor, and I'm a contractor myself. It takes a certain amount of discipline and balance, to really do the job well, and to manage individuals well, and to make sure that they're empowered and they have what they need to succeed, and that they're able to stick to, the deliverables that have been scoped out.
absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's hard to find good people that are aligned with your mission and have the same goals that you as yourself. So let's moving on. Talk to me about any organizations, any military programs that you did once you transition out. Even though you went to reservists, did you go to any type of small business association, SCORE, or anything B2B to help you with your business?
Um, to actually help with my business,
Yeah, to help you get your business
or to
started.
get a job.
Any venture
Um,
organizations?
I actually have not used any veteran. I took the Boots to Business class when I was
Okay,
transitioning out, which I thought was nice. It was short, but it was nice. Um, the SBA has a lot of resources.
you do.
I was someone that took my time and I scaled appropriately, so I didn't need any financial assistance, fortunately. But again, because I was very careful to scale. I did it in a timely fashion. Um, I have mentors, business mentors. I'm constantly meeting with, subject matter experts in their field. In my day job, I learn a lot about tech platforms and different things. I hire consultants as well. That's been my main, path of learning.
Mhm.
My own transition into the corporate sector, I did use some different organizations out there. I used Forblock, I used American Corporate Partners, I used Hire Heroes. Four Block was a big turning point for me because it was the organization that opened the door for me to secure a role at Forrester Research. So I'll be forever thankful for that opportunity. I never would have had it if I hadn't, signed myself up for the four block cohort. So that I encourage everyone to, check out Four Block. Um, you know, they can help you get introduced to different
Yeah.
companies in your specific city.
Yep. I completely agree with you. For blog ACP, I did ACP gives you a direct mentor that's in the field you want to go into, so it's definitely beneficial for you. So now, tell us about your company. What exactly that you do? Who do you serve? And what makes you a little different than anything else going on out there?
Yeah, so mission to commission or commission to transition.
Let's talk about both of them.
Yeah, so they both have exactly the same mission. We help individuals transitioning from the military and those who are joining the military. Mission to commission is more geared towards those joining, making the right decisions with all the information that they need, whether it be Army, Navy. Where we work across all the different branches. The branches are different, but the idea is the same. You need to have the right information, which admittedly we don't always get when we walk into a recruiting office. So we're kind of like the lifeline, the source of truth. We help them through the process. We help them prepare. We help them with applications, and help explain what ROTC is versus a service academy versus OCS versus platoon leaders class. All these different options out there. There's so
Mhm.
many. It's so overwhelming. That's the heart of what mission to commission does. We also help those transitioning out, but we provide more personalized services in the for profit. So if somebody is wants a real career direction, they're lost, or they're not lost. They need someone to polish their resume, give some pointers. They need help with outreach strategies via LinkedIn, networking, um, identifying education and skills gaps, certification gaps that they need to get into a particular field. We have something called a career strategy playbook,
Mhm.
which is offered through both organizations. The main difference is that mission to commission is 100% charitable. We try to help every single person. Um, and so far we've never turned anyone away. There might be a point where, capacity just doesn't meet demand. And, but we do an honor basis. If someone is unable to pay for services, they go to mission to commission. If someone wants to invest money in their career strategy and trajectory, and they have very specific things that they need, like they want to prepare for an interview, then that would be commission to transition. But we do a whole range of services, from helping individuals join, helping them come up with a roadmap for success when they're transitioning out, helping them with interviews, presentations, uh, redoing their LinkedIn page, uh, pretty much anything and everything you can think of. Salary negotiation, we've helped individuals with.
Wow.
Um, so it's I haven't come across anything that we couldn't do.
Okay.
Um, the one thing that I'm working on is job placement, and that's a whole
Mm.
nother phase. We're not quite there yet. We certainly make referrals. I'm working on a network right now, where employers can get access to transitioning veterans, people looking for work. That's on the roadmap. But it's been extremely rewarding to help people prepare for the job. But admittedly, I want to get them across the finish line. I want to get them to that handshake. They go to their first role. So, or when they're pivoting, they come back and say, "Hey, I transitioned 10 years ago, um, but now I'm pivoting into another field, or can you look at my resume and help me
Yeah.
out? Or I just lost a job. I'm feeling stressed. I'm lost. Can you give me a courtesy review uh, of tell me what I need to do to better network, or to tweak my resume, whatever it is."
Absolutely. So yeah, offer an abundance of services. So how can someone get connected to you, get involved, and also maybe take a part of your services for
Sure.
starting a new career?
So I have a website, natalieschibell.com, and there are a number of contact forms on there. And that's essentially like my triage, where
Okay.
I do an intake, figure out exactly what you need. If you need charitable services, you'll go off to mission to commission. If you're, willing to, make more of an investment in your career and your position to do so, it would be commission to transition, and we can work more personalized. Um, and those are the main two tracks. I'm working on my mission to commission website right now. It's a big one. It's going to be very extensive, and so people will be able to go there, peruse lots of information, read blogs. We have a newsletter called Formation Forward that goes out every week. I'm also working on a Beehive newsletter, so lots of different resources for veterans, service connected individuals, not just veterans. Um, And that newsletter will speak to all those different audiences, family members, spouses, because it's all they're all part of it as well.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure I stay connected so I can get on that email list for that newsletter. So, in closing, will you give us one piece of advice you would tell to our listeners out there who are they want to make a transition, they're getting ready to make a transition, but they really need some advice or need a direction they should go in? What advice would you give someone who's getting ready to transition out?
Have a plan. You got to
Mm,
develop a plan, and you only know what you know, right? So find a mentor. Hey, reach out to us. Um, we'll help you through it. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do. Um, but we'll help you do the research, help you make informed decisions, and help you come up with a roadmap for success. What certs do I need? What education do I need to work on? How do I network? How do I fix my resume? What makes me most competitive in this very challenging market that we're in? How do I stand out and differentiate? How do I brand myself? These are all the things that you should be thinking about, and that you should have a mentor helping you, and several mentors actually. Don't do it alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there. I won't be offended if you don't reach out to me. There's a ton of them out there. Make use of them. There's a lot of great people who are willing to lend a hand or an ear. Take advantage of that, but always don't take it for granted. I always tell people, "Don't thank me, help the next one in line." You
absolutely.
know, there's someone 10 years from now who'll need your help that, you were in their shoes at one point. So
Yeah,
just remember that, and we've got to all work together. We're all veterans. We're all a special community, that small 1%. We've got to help lift each other up, give one another opportunities, and keep spreading the word.
absolutely. I'll just add one thing to that. Start that plan early. Please don't wait till the last minute, because you wait till the last minute, you're way behind the power curve. So start early, start early. All right, we want to go ahead and thank Natalie for joining us today on the VET S.O.S podcast, Operation Startup. On behalf of all the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank you, everyone, for joining us today. You can find VET S.O.S podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, and all social media platforms as well. Make sure you subscribe and follow VET S.O.S so you don't miss anything like this amazing interview we did with Miss Natalie Schibell today. And remember, our motto is, don't drown in this here transition. Make sure you grab that VET S.O.S lifeline.